Dozens of players broke out across college football in 2024, but how many of them can repeat those performances in 2025? That's what we're going to talk about here tonight. Campus to Canton is live right now. Austin Nace joined by Matt Bruening on this lovely, lovely Wednesday evening. The dead part of the offseason. We can't talk Bill Belichick again. We can't talk CFP 26 again. We're running out of stuff here, Matt. But I think this is an interesting discussion here tonight because, you know, we see all these guys kind of do the one-year wonder thing all the time. And so I think figuring out which of these guys are likely to repeat and which aren't, I think is a fun exercise. So I think that's what the two of us are going to do here tonight. Before we hop into everything, guys, just make sure you're heading over to campustocanton.com. While you're here, if you're live with us, why don't you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out all our other social media as well. Subscribe, like, whatever, all the different buttons you can click across all of our social media. Do all of that for us. And how about this one? For you guys listening on the podcast, let's leave some reviews this week. Let's leave some reviews. We're talking about some potential giveaways coming up here. So leave those reviews and maybe you'll have a chance to win something cool. Matt, you got the South Harmon shirt tonight. I like it.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I've rocked the South Harmon gear. Yeah, love Mike and Adam. They obviously did a podcast with us for a long time. Yeah. Just good dudes in the industry. Probably two of my favorite people. So
yeah, some of the best beards. Some of the best beards around. For
that
sure.
Is true too.
Hardiest, we'll say for sure. I mean, for sure they're up there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I think I don't think this is out of line to say these might. I don't think it'll upset you. I think some of the best nipples too. I don't know if you've ever seen that episode or that little thing when they announced. Can't remember who it was. I think it was Cody Carpentier and somebody else that was joining him for something. And Mike joined the stream shirtless.
Good for them.
And yeah, nips were out. Yeah, and, you know, some of the best nipples in the business. I think.
You know, maybe we should put together a rankings list of that. How about that, Matt? That'll be your off-season job. I'll keep everything else in order if you can put together.
I was gonna say that'll be the one article I write for the website this year, but I've already actually written one, so maybe I'll make it my other article. You know, I'm not sure where we'll classify it on the website or if you guys will even publish it, but I'll start working on that this summer.
Strategy for sure. Strategy. Yeah, I don't know how or why, but that feels like the good place for that.
Yeah.
All right. We've got some guys in the chat already. We love to see that. And if you guys have thoughts about any of the players that we're talking about tonight or have others that you want us to discuss, we have like 12 to 15 down here on the sheet. We'll see how many we get through. We go for like an hour. You know, we'll see if we can talk about all these guys or, you know, filter in what you guys want to talk about. Let's start. I broke these out into three categories, Matt, because I think it also is important to add some of this context to some of these guys. Yeah. But for, you know, one hit wonder or, you know, continue on here, become a star. We've got three categories: transfers. So guys that transferred this offseason that kind of broke out last year. Will they continue in their new spot? Staying put. Self-explanatory, the opposite of that. They didn't move. And then second year leap, you know, guys that were freshmen last year and like, yeah, maybe they didn't have 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns, but they had a pretty nice foundation to their career. And we'll see if they can kind of take that next step here in 2025. So let's start off top name here. We'll just go right into it. Joseph Williams, who was at, I get this wrong every single time. He was at Tulsa.
Yes, that's correct.
Look at me go. Tulsa, Tulane. I mean, it's all like the same exact thing. Although I'm sure their fans would
Well, Tulane, I think, was a little bit better, you know. So I think Tulane fans might take offense to that.
You're right. I'm sorry, Tulane fans, if I've upset you in any way. Joseph Williams left this offseason, headed to Colorado, which I think is going to be an interesting spot for him. Last season, really broke out toward the end of the year, finished his true freshman season with 30 catches, 588 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. And basically all of that came between weeks 8 and 14. So averaged almost 100 yards a game and, you know, 5-6 catches during that stretch was really, really productive. There's been positive reports about him coming out of Colorado so far. This spring, I think that offense as a whole is kind of interesting because they're rebuilding basically the whole thing from scratch. Matt, Joseph Williams going to build on what he did last year, or we thinking maybe a little iffy?
I'm a little iffy on this one, if you want me to be honest. I mean, obviously they've got the Miller brothers that are not brothers there. That they've been there with Dion, and now Shermer for a season and a half, right? Because I mean, I remember when Sean Lewis was demoted, whatever that was. It was, I think it was after like 5 or 6 games, if I'm remembering correctly, a couple years ago. And Shermer, I believe, was the one who came in and took over play calling duties. So, I mean, he was with them for, well, no, I guess both Miller Bros were freshmen last year, or one of them.
No, Marion will be entering his 3rd year in school, and Draylon will be entering his 2nd year in school. Yeah.
But they obviously had all of last year with him as well. And the big change here at quarterback, I think, is going to matter as well. Because, I mean, if you look at what the offense was able to do with Shedeur at quarterback, where, again, we knew they were going to throw the ball a lot. There was really not much going on rushing-wise. I mean, their number one receivers were putting up anywhere from 16 to 22 points a week. They're passing the ball 60 to 63% of the time. Like, it was all pass heavy. I wonder if they go a little bit away from that, bringing in Caden Salter, who I really just don't think he's going to be able to produce what Shedeur was able to do at the quarterback position. And I just don't know that Joseph Williams goes in there and unseats the Miller brothers or both of them. Like, could he possibly be the number 2? Sure. But, I imagine he's going to be playing on the outside. I would imagine Draylon's probably going to be in the slot. So I don't think so. I think it's probably a 1-year wonder for Joseph Williams. Not saying that he can't continue to be somewhat successful, and then maybe, I know Felix really believes he's got an NFL future, but if we're just talking about what he was able to do last year and to kind of expand on that, I just don't think it happens.
Yeah, I think it's really hard. Like I was kind of saying earlier, and I think you talked about it there. They're replacing everything in Colorado, essentially, like from like a skill position perspective. And the running back, I don't know that it really matters if, what they're doing there, because they don't seem that intent on running the ball or capable of it, quite frankly, at this juncture. The last 2 years of Colorado, Shedeur Sanders attempted 435 and 481 passes. So over 900 pass attempts combined between the last 2 years. Salter's last 2 years, he's attempted 262 and 291. And there obviously are offensive schematic differences why that would be the case, but there's also, I think, player abilities that factor into that as well. Shedeur, because we just meant they couldn't run, there were a lot of limitations on this offense. They had to toss the ball around a ton, and Liberty's pass attack a little more balanced. Yeah. But I don't think that Salter is capable of dropping back and throwing the ball 435 times this year. I don't even know if I'd want him throwing it over 300. So I think that any discussion that we have about Joseph Williams or Draylon or Miller or Marion Miller or anybody else you really like there, we like Quentin Gibson coming in there as a freshman. I think there's going to be a real scaling back on all of the receivers this year, which I think makes, like, I think there would have been, if Shedeur was there one more year and they were committed to this 450 pass attempts attack, there's a little more leeway for guessing on some of these guys. So it's not a receiver room that I feel like terribly comfortable giving a hard projection on, but I do think that Williams has some things that will benefit him with Salter, who I don't think is a great passer. Like, he'll be the kind of guy that if he just needs to hoof it downfield and kind of throw a 50-50 ball and have someone go up to get it, like, that's definitely something that Williams can do. But Williams isn't a great separator. So if it turns out, because I don't know that Salter, I'm interested to see which he ends up preferring, kind of the guy in the slot that's getting open pretty easily and kind of see it throw it, or if he's kind of a hoof it downfield guy this year. I think that dichotomy is going to be really interesting. I lean he might have 600 to 700 yards, but I don't think we're going to see an explosion this year. I think there's going to be some limitations on this team that ultimately hold him back. So, I don't think we see a second-year breakout for Williams. And what was your final verdict, Matt? You said no as well.
Yeah, same. I just don't see any way he, like I said, I could easily see him being the wide receiver 2 on that team, but I just don't see how he jumps both of the Millers and kind of becomes the number 1 target for Salter. And I agree with you. Like I said, I just don't see them passing the ball that much, despite whatever they have at running back. I think they will try to have a more balanced attack. And I think all that together just kind of nukes his ability or his chances of being like a massive breakout player.
And Salter has completed less than 60% of his passes, or fewer than 60% of his passes in his career. So, like, even if they are throwing at that clip, it just I don't. That's not going to be that effective. I don't think so. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out. Speaking of transfers into the Big 12 on a former Pac-12 roster, Devin Dampier, breakout season last year, kind of a guy that was a hot, deeper draft name for CFF and C2C last season. Ended up passing for 2,761 yards, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. You say, Austin, that's not really that impressive. But he also ran for, taking sacks out of the equation, over 1,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. So really dynamic fantasy asset. Probably not a guy, at 5'10", 190-ish pounds that we're really looking to make it to the NFL. So we're talking, really a college producer here, headed to Utah. Been a bit more of a conservative offense over the past couple of years, Matt. Devin Dampier. Yeah. They kind of try to unleash him like he was last year. Is there another way to play? Can you play conservative with Devin Dampier?
I don't think so. And I can't remember who the offensive coordinator is that he brought over with him. Do you remember the name by any chance? Because I don't.
I don't remember the OC's name. I'll look it up quick while you're talking.
Okay, here. So he obviously he followed him over here to Utah. Jason Beck, from New Mexico. So and again, we've talked a lot about. I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch a lot of their games last year, but Mox talked about how arguably the worst defense in all of college football last year. So Dampier was relied upon a ton last year to kind of create those yards and everything. Where I think that he could continue that breakout and be a college star is we have seen in the past with offensive coordinators not quite as innovative as Jason Beck with Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah.
Allow his quarterbacks to run the ball, specifically one Cam Rising. He has had 70 plus rushing attempts. Granted, he's only really played 4 years, if you can even count that, 30 games altogether in 5-6 years of college football. Guy's been injured a lot, unfortunately. But in those 2 years that he had 77 rushing attempts, only 20 of those were actual scrambles. So that's 50 rushing attempts from a quarterback. That's a decent amount. Now, I don't remember how many you said Devin Dampier had. Well, it was, I assume, quite a lot. I don't know.
He had 160 rush attempts according to PFF. I don't know how many of those. I don't see a breakout on here between the two.
Gotcha. Okay. So, he had, I usually go by they have a scramble thing that they usually put on there. I assume is kind of those were they considered scrambles. So, I think that if Kyle Whittingham lets Jason Beck actually run the offense and kind of let Devin Dampier do his thing, I think that gives them an added bonus on that offense as well. He will be able to create that havoc. I don't know if he'll be as successful as he was obviously last year. It's a decent step up in competition. But I do think if they allow him to do that he could continue that breakout. Now, he's not going to end up QB5 like he did last season. But I've been pretty firm on saying I still think he can finish as a top 15 to 20 quarterback. Because, I think even if you drop down the rushing yards a couple hundred, I think he had almost 20 rushing touchdowns. Is that correct? I remember it was a pretty big amount, 19. Yeah. So, even if he gets 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns, let's say, 500-600 rushing yards, and then you add in more passing touchdowns, because he definitely did not have a lot of those last year. I still think he finishes as a really good fantasy asset. So I actually think that he keeps it up, because I do think, again, with just the way that Kyle Whittingham coaches, they're going to have a good defense. They're going to be a favorite in the Big 12. I don't have their schedule pulled up in front of me, but I imagine they're going to be favorites or right there in the mix of every game. And if Dampier is given the opportunity to do what he does, I actually think he's going to continue it.
Utah actually gets pretty much all of the difficult games in the Big 12 next year. Yeah. They play Texas Tech, who is figured to be significantly improved this year with some of the NIL investments they made. They get Arizona State, they get BYU, they get Baylor, and they get Kansas State. Plus, like Kansas is in there who could be tricky. So I'm like, it's not like none of those are probably like amazing teams, but I think those are all moderately difficult matchups on some level, if not, maybe that terrible defensively. I pulled up our athleticism comparison tool on the website, Matt. Do you know who Devin Dampier's top athletic comp is in our database?
I mean, I do because I have it pulled up as well. So,
do you?
Yeah.
It's Garrett Green.
Yeah.
That
is
like
it?
that. So
I don't have that.
we have a new tool that launches that's like
I know. Oh, I still.
So
I guess I'm not using that one. You should drop that in the private chat for me, so because I haven't saved the link.
Sir, come on. All right, I will give this to you here.
Continue with the Garrett Green.
Railing the whole thing here. It's Garrett Green who did this.
Not bad.
It was productive in the same exact conference over the past couple of years. So
yeah,
Dampier's the kind of guy like I think you had to unleash him. It's like Castellanos last year. We talked about him. Like, can you rein in Thomas Castellanos? I mean, no, you take away everything that is good about Thomas Castellanos if you kind of rein him in. I think the same is true of Devin Dampier. So I think bringing him in with any intention other than just unleashing him is not going to work. And because they have his former OC, I think it will. So yeah, I think he's going to have an excellent year. Overshadowed in that conference by maybe a few other guys, Sawyer Robertson, Josh Hoover, but I think he'll also have a really, really strong season. So yeah, I'm with you, and top 15-ish for fantasy feels pretty good, I think overall. Let's stick with quarterbacks. Fernando Mendoza, formerly of Cal, headed to Indiana here this year. I think it's going to be an interesting marriage with Curt Cignetti and co over there. Mendoza last year completed 68% of his passes, roughly 3,004 yards, 16 passing touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Added, a couple hundred yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground as well, but that's not really what he's known for. He steps in for Curtis Rourke there at Indiana, who's kind of looking to continue on from what they did last year. Matt, is Mendoza a guy that's going to continue his trajectory, or do we see some stagnation for him?
I mean, I actually think that he likely will because of the move. I mean, when we talk about Curt Cignetti and what he's been able to do, obviously at James Madison, very successful. And weirdly, like his first year at James Madison, it was more rushing than it was passing. So like when was it 2023, he had the pretty big breakout year passing, was 52% passing in neutral early game script situations. Last year, they did it as well with Curtis Rourke, 46%, which is roughly what Justin Wilcox was doing at Cal as well when Fernando Mendoza was there. They were actually throwing it 49% of the time. I wonder if maybe they were running it a little bit more just because, like, no offense to Curtis Rourke, but I don't think he's quite as good a quarterback as Fernando Mendoza is now currently. I think he obviously just came in there as a vet, was a guy who knew how to run offenses and was just a player that was going to be able to distribute the ball, which I do think is what Fernando Mendoza can do. I think he's arguably probably a much better athlete. I'm actually going to pull up Curtis Rourke's now because I want to see, but I mean, he much better athlete. Holy crap. I did not realize that Fernando Mendoza, so, I mean, he's right on that. We talk about that line of the 70, right? That's kind of where you want. I mean, he's right under that line. Curtis Rourke's at a 0.122. That's I was not expecting it to be that bad, but
he doesn't have knees anymore, so
that's fair.
Help.
And I know how that feels actually. So I feel you, brother. It's not fun. But when you look at just like an offensive pass success rate of what Curt Cignetti's had over the past couple years, it's plus 45 up to 50%. His wide receivers anywhere from 15 to 18 points a game. Again, their passing rate in earlier neutral game script situations is 45 to 52%. Extremely good pass success rate, as I just mentioned. Offensive EPA really off the charts. Like him going in there and they keep Surratt, which I think is a good thing for Mendoza as well. Like I think that he continues. I actually think he might end up having a better year just because of what I think of Cignetti. I think the big thing I'm worried about is if the Big Ten defensive coordinators figure out the offense. But if they don't, and I'm sure Indiana has a tough schedule this year because last year they played nobody. I think they had just Michigan and Ohio State, and they really did not have to play any of the other big dogs in the Big Ten. I imagine their schedule is probably a little bit tougher this year, but I think Mendoza probably has, if not as good, a better year than he did last year.
It's not a murder's row schedule, but they do have some tougher games in there. And there is actually a stretch from end of September to beginning of October where they play Illinois, Iowa, and Oregon in back-to-back-to-back weeks. I think that's an interesting stretch for them. And I think that stretch, it's not a stretch to say that probably defines their season there. They do also get Penn State in November, but the rest of the schedule is, I would say, navigable for sure. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the schedule gets, crazy this year. Yeah, I mean, I think Mendoza right now is kind of a hot, kind of like it almost feels like the hipster name to like be a first round quarterback next year. And we kind of get one or two of those guys every offseason where it's like, well, I don't like these guys. I like Fernando Mendoza. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just kind of what he feels like right now. I personally don't quite think that that's where he goes, but I don't think he's a bad player by any stretch. I think statistically he will be better than he was last year. Because I think it would be being on Cal, they didn't have a lot of great weapons. I think it would be difficult for him not to be. But do I see like that big kind of explosion onto the national scene? I'm not sure I see that. I mean, would you bet him as a first round pick next year, Matt, if you had to today? No.
I mean, I think he could honestly probably go day 2 fairly easily. I think he's got the talent to be, funny. We were talking about this as one of my favorite players in the 2026 class. I was kind of getting made fun of on if you're an NIL or All-22 member, you have listened to the recruiting summit kind of thing we did yesterday with the recruiting team. It was pretty funny. I do think he has a chance to be a fairly solid NFL backup and probably be in the NFL for a long time, but I don't think that he's a first round pick.
No, I don't think so either. Although the athleticism, he's got a really good athleticism score. And the athleticism score is like important and it matters beyond just like, can this guy rush or not? But I don't think he has great rushing instincts and or willingness. So, I think that's going to be an interesting thing for him because he's a bigger guy. And I think he is a little awkward at times as a mover, like not unathletic, he's not Joe Flacco when he was coming out of college, but I don't think he's a great runner. So I think that will hold him back a little bit. Somebody asked for it, and he actually is the next name on the list. So Ahmad Hardy last year at ULM, 238 carries, 1,346 yards, and 13 rushing touchdowns. Not really any receiving production to speak of. It was pretty much all rushing there. Going to Mizzou, they have a wide open backfield. It sounds like they do intend for him to be the RB1 there. I don't know, Matt, what do you think about Ahmad Hardy?
I really don't know which way I want to lean with this because I'm not the biggest Ahmad Hardy fan. Although he does comp to like 2 running backs that I loved back in the day. I was a big Jamar Jefferson guy. I loved Jamar Jefferson out of
I remember
Oregon State, and I actually liked Akram Wadley as well, who I believe was out of Iowa, if I remember.
Yeah, he was an Iowa guy. Yeah,
I love both those running backs. The main bet here, I think, if you're gonna lean on he does it again, you're leaning solely on Drink and what he's able to do with his running backs, right? I mean, every year that he has been in college football, all the way back to his time at Appalachian State, he's run the ball over 55% of the time, which is ridiculous. Last year specifically, almost 60% of the time in neutral early downs. His running backs, though, fairly good success in 4 of those 6 years. They were 20-plus points. The other 2, though, only 11. That was in 2022 and last year in 2024. I honestly think that's probably what we're getting closer to with Ahmad Hardy. I just don't think this Missouri team is necessarily going to be that good. I don't know how much maybe is – I don't know that Bo Perbula is going to steal a ton of rushing from him. Maybe he will. I was a big proponent of Sam Horn. Clearly, I just don't think that dude's got it either. So, I think the possibly bad quarterback position is not going to help Hardy out any. The wide receiver room is, in my opinion, pretty bad too. Like maybe Kevin, I know a lot of people think Kevin Coleman might have a good year. I mean, you have to have a quarterback to pass you the ball to have a good year. So I think Missouri has a chance to be a really, really bad team this year, which all around just affects Ahmad Hardy. I don't expect him to. I think he's one of those guys that just kind of, unfortunately, has a worse year.
I think their defense keeps them from being a bad team. I think that defense is pretty loaded. So I think they're going to be a very much a first team to 21 wins on any given week, essentially, is kind of what they feel like this year, unless Bo Perbula like just totally shocks the crap out of me, which could definitely happen, but I've never ever watched him at any point and thought that he was any good at all. I think with Hardy, like he played at LA Monroe, so again, I don't expect Louisiana Monroe, so I don't expect him to have played this just brutal schedule and have really good, schedule adjusted numbers and all that kind of stuff, but he had 4 games last year over 105 rushing yards. Those came against the number 133 out of 134 rush defense in the country, number 125 out of 134, number 10. Oh, where'd you go? Number and 102 out of 134, and then 73. It just like his big games, and again, I know like he was not playing a tough schedule, but they were all against just the worst of the worst teams on his schedule, essentially. So that is kind of red flaggy to me, but I think, like you said, Drinkowitz will get rushing production. I don't think you have to be a good player, relatively speaking, to produce here. I mean, think about, and again, like this is not like Cody Schrader. I mean, I don't even know if he's still in the NFL or not, but like he's not going to hang around there. Like those are the kind of guys that have been able to come in there. I mean, both the guys last year, none of them are NFL backs, and both were very productive. I mean, I think it's just the nature of what they can kind of get out of these guys. So do I think he can be productive there? Like, do you think he runs for over 1,000 yards, Matt?
I don't. I mean, again, I mean, because even I don't. Let me actually go ahead. Continue. Give me your reasoning why.
If he's healthy, I think they're gonna run the ball a ton. I think him and Perbula can kind of work off each other a little bit. Perbula's threat with his legs will open up some things, I think, for Hardy and whoever else is kind of behind him in the pecking order there. So yeah, I do think that he hits 1,000 yards as long as he's healthy this year. What is that? It's like an 80 something yards per game average to get there. So even if he like I think he'll do that even if he gets hurt and misses some time or whatever. Yeah.
So here's the crazy thing about this, because I remember looking this up when I went and looked at Kewan Lacey, because obviously I loved when he ended up going here. Do you know how often Drink has produced 1,000-yard running back?
Well, I don't know if they had one last year or not, because those two both ate into each other. But I'd imagine
they did not. Wasn't even close.
I'd imagine darn near every year where they've had like a back, they've gotten there.
You would be mistaken, my friend.
Okay.
Well, let's see. 2020 doesn't count. I'm trying to go backwards as I'm looking at this. So far, he's had 2 in 4 years. It was Cody Schrader and then Tyler Batty 1 year.
Yeah.
And so most of his guys have been right around 800. And I mean, granted, well, now we're past Drinkowitz being there now at Barry Odom. I don't know I didn't go back and look at the Appalachian State one. So I don't know. I don't think that. I mean, Ahmad Hardy's probably a little bit more athletic than Cody Schrader. He definitely is not what Tyler Batty was. I mean, Tyler Batty, wasn't going to be an NFL back, but he's a very, very good college running back. I don't remember what. I'll actually look up Cody Schrader right now since I've got it. I mean,
he's a worse athlete than both of them in our database.
Schrader is.
Hardy.
Or are you talking about Hardy? Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, Schrader's a decent amount. And I know Batty was a pretty decent athlete. So if they really go the route that you said, or that you think they could go, where it's like they're playing defense first to 21. I think maybe if you're just trying to run the clock out, he's going to get a lot of carries. But again, I don't necessarily think that the offensive line's that good. And maybe I'm just like way overthinking this because I'm not a college football coach, obviously. But like, if I'm a defensive coordinator, like I'm going into every game against Missouri and forcing Bo Prabula to beat me. Like I'm like, prove to me that you can beat me passing the ball, and I'll stop like rushing 6 or 7 at you or stacking the line and stopping the run game of Bo Prabula because I just don't think you can do it. So I personally don't think that he's going to be able to do it. I think he's probably looking at 700-800 yards.
Okay. Fair enough. And somebody, I mean, Morris. Do they have a Morris quarterback on their roster?
I don't think so. It's
I'll have to be a little more specific if you guys are gonna do the Smith and Morris and the other last names on here.
I'm almost positive it's Prabula. Sam Horn is the backup, and then I want to say Zollers is Chandler. Chandler Morris isn't at Missouri.
No, he's at UNLV. Is that where he went? Right.
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I would take Morris if that's what you're asking. If you're asking Prabula,
sorry, he's at Virginia. Sorry, what's his name that was at Virginia went to UNLV.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would probably take. I don't think Bo Prabula is good at all. I'm with Austin, and I have no bias against him. I just think he's a bad quarterback. No offense, if you ever.
I think both are objectively limited players. I don't know that it. Like, are you just asking for fantasy? Like, I think Prabula's rush upside might have him score a little better for fantasy this year, but I think both are not good power 4 quarterbacks. So I think they would be amongst, if I had to power rank the starting P4 quarterbacks, I would put them amongst the worst in the country. And Prabula might be. I don't know. I don't want to commit to that without thinking the whole way through, but he might. Northwestern, well, they got Preston Stone now. I mean, yeah, he might be objectively like one of the worst, if not the worst, power 4 starting quarterback in the country. So, but yeah, I mean, both of them stink. So, and then someone, Drew, just asked, where can you listen to the Rankings Summit? It is for NIL, all 22 members only. And yes, it is on our collective podcast feed. To get access to that, if you are a member.
Yeah, if you're.
Head into the Discord. Yes, there would be all links and everything in there for you guys to be able to download that and take a listen.
If you are an NIL or all 22 member, there should be a channel in the NIL channel called Collective. I believe it's Collective Link, or I can't remember what. But you can click on that, and Austin just literally dropped it this morning. So it's like the first link on there. You can just go in there and listen.
All right, let's see here. Next up on our list, Wayshawn Parker, another running back. Parker flashed a little bit last year at Washington State, and he's obviously also a second-year leap kind of guy, but because he transferred, we dropped him in this bucket. I think he started off the season pretty hot, and then they went to him a little less as the season went on. And he became, I thought, less efficient kind of overall as the season went on, but did finish that year with about 731 rush yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. Yeah. Did a little work in the receiving game, but nothing substantial. But I think he is a pretty good receiver. He's at Utah now. I think he has a chance to be pretty awesome. What do you think?
I do too. I think the only thing that might hold him back is Dampier, who we just talked about. We think he takes that step forward. Like, I don't know that, and I can't remember. I can't remember who his running back was last year. If Dampier dumped off a lot to him, I mean, obviously Mateer didn't dump off a lot to him too, but he was still. I think it was Eli Sanders, but then I'm always worried that they weren't both at the same school, because then I always think Eli transferred to US. No, he did transfer. I always think Eli transferred with him to Utah, but he went to USC. I'm pretty sure it was Eli Sanders, but. I don't know that Dampier jumps off a ton to him. Not that John Mateer did either, and he still had a really good season. Again, if you go through Kyle Whittingham's history as a coach, I mean, that is the one thing that they do, right? Like, where, I was just talking about what, I can't remember, I think it was Drinkowich and how often he runs it. I mean, Kyle Whittingham, raise your hand, who does it more? The lowest amount he has ever done. I mean, I guess I could pull up all 21 rows here. Let's see here. As far back as we go here, which is all the way down to 2013. The lowest amount he has ever run the ball in early or neutral game script situations is 56%. Most of these years, it's over 60, some over 65% of the time. So if Wayshawn Parker is going to be the guy and get the opportunities, I mean, I do think that he's got a shot to be really good. And I actually think it's a little bit tit for tat. Like if Devin Dampier doesn't dump the ball off to him a ton, it might hurt him a little bit in the receiving game. But if they allow Dampier to actually run the ball and be explosive in that aspect, I actually think that might open things up a little bit more for Parker at times. So that I think helps him on the rushing side of things. So I agree with you. I think he has, if not as good a year, a better year. Like I think he has a chance to probably get to 1,000 yards, maybe at least 1,000 yards total. So I think that Parker's in for a really good year.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I mean, Utah's offensive line has a bunch of dudes on it as well, which I think is going to help. And I think we need to be reminded that this is a team that, generally speaking, has produced some real good running backs from a college production standpoint over the past decade, at least. You know, it always seems like they have a guy there, and then the last year or two they really haven't. And so or we thought they had a guy and they disappointed. Who did they have there? He was the former he was at Arkansas last year. Jaquindon
Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah. Like they thought he was going to be really good. And I think that then last year that whole offense was just rudderless with Rising missing the year and all of that kind of stuff. So I think 1,000 yards if he's healthy is very likely. I don't want to put a percent chance on it because we've banned giving percent chances on things, and I can't just Canton. But a certain member who shall not be named caused that rule for us. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a pretty good chance he hits 1,000 yards. I think he's probably. I don't mean, where do we have him overall on the running back rankings? I probably am too low on him. Actually, I need to revisit that.
That's a good question. I imagine I'm fairly low on him too.
Yeah, I think I need to be higher on him. And then what does he look like in our athleticism database? I bet it's decent.
It's decent. I just switched to someone who's really good. I didn't realize this guy was that good of an athlete. So
55th percentile. Who is a good athlete that you're looking at?
The player we're about to talk about next. I pulled him
Quentin Joyner?
I didn't. Yeah. I was trying to pull up Wayshawn Parker's where do we have him at? Yeah, we have him low. I'm looking. He's not even in the top 25.
Yeah, I probably need to revisit that. Think about that a little bit. Quentin Joyner is the next name on here. Transferred from USC to Texas Tech, where he is the presumptive starter right now. Joyner was crazy
real quick
last. Yeah.
Let me give a round of applause to one Colin Decker.
No, stop it.
He has Wayshawn Park.
All right, Matt, you're gone. We don't shout out Colin on this show, sir.
Colin, if you're listening, good job. He has him at 11. Me and you have him. You have him at 49. I have him at 47. So we're the ones holding him down. That will be adjusted tonight. As to pull a campus life move, he's moving up my rankings right now as we speak. I will be moving Wayshawn Parker up. I don't know. I'm putting him at 11. But he's getting moved up at least into the top 15. I think that he's going to end up having a good year. That's definitely that's a you're my bad, your fault kind of thing, as Mike Valley likes to say. I'm not, I blame you for that.
So I'm going to move him to RB29 as we're sitting here talking, and I'll have to chew on that a little bit more to see if he can go further than that. I don't know that he can, but who knows?
I will get him at probably right around RB 23 to 25. I don't know if I want to put him over Jaden Ball, but I definitely am putting him over LJ Martin at 25. So I think it'll be at least 25 for me.
Okay. All right. There we go. You heard it here first. Quentin Joyner, 64 carries last year was all he got, but he did average over 7 yards per carry. And so people are really excited about him headed to Texas Tech here. I've been he also forced 22 missed tackles on 64 rush attempts. So those are pretty good numbers. Colin and I talked about a couple backs recently who were like 10 missed tackles forced on 150 carries. Like we've been talking about some just straight no wiggle guys recently. So that's refreshing. I mean, do you think he is the unquestioned lead back a la who was their guy last year? Taj Brooks. Sorry.
Yeah. I do, because I think he brings a lot of what Taj Brooks brought, and we saw how good he was. Shout out to you on that. I actually think the first year of the existence of this website, you talked about Taj Brooks being a good player, and never wrong, just early. Like it took a year or two, but then Taj Brooks was a phenomenal, at least college player for multiple years. I mean, you talk about the athlete that Quentin Joyner is. We have him at a 0.96 star index. I mean, that is absolutely phenomenal. Almost I'm going to be honest, I don't know who Taven Feaster is, but everybody else
Really?
on that list, yeah, I don't remember who Taven Feaster is. So here's the thing, like, we're getting off the rails a little bit. I wasn't like super into football for a long time. That was all about soccer and baseball. So I would just kind of watch the Browns a lot and then watch a lot of Ohio State. I loved college football, but I didn't get as into it until a little bit later in life. So yeah,
Missing out.
I was missing out on Taven Feaster, apparently. Any chance he's related to, was it Booby Feaster?
Booby?
Right?
I don't think so. Feaster, I'm pretty sure, because I usually check for these guys. They'll have like real guys they're related to on 24/7. I don't think he has anybody in there. So,
but yeah, I mean, I think especially with the receiving upside as well. But I know everybody seems to really like Cameron Dickey. I was trying to pay as much attention to like spring reports and everything as I could on Texas Tech. Sometimes, again, it's kind of hard to tell with some of these beat reporters. They don't necessarily always give negative stuff. And Texas Tech stuff's usually actually kind of hard to find. A lot of their stuff is behind like newspaper paywalls. They usually don't have a lot on like 24/7 sports and everything. I didn't see much about Cameron Dickey. I've seen a little bit here and there about Quentin Joyner. If he really does get the number one spot, I think he's a better player than Taj Brooks. So I do think that, I mean, he has a chance to have a massive season. And again, I think just because of how talented of an athlete he is, even if Cameron Dickey starts off the year as a starter, I still think at some point he ends up taking over. He's just a bet that I'm willing to, or he's a player I'm willing to bet on, just because of how good of a player I think he can end up being.
It's not just Cameron Dickey that's there. It's also Jacoby Williams.
Yeah.
And Williams might be the guy that gets more touches than Dickey this year, because Williams is a little smaller, and I think maybe plays off of what, not that Joyner is like some between the tackles thumper that's 230 pounds, but I think they would kind of work off each other reasonably well. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of, I think, talented backs on that team. So I really just think this is a coaching staff call. Like, do they get to the point where they just say 60 to 70% of the touches are going to Joyner because that's how we want to do it, versus how many touches do Jacoby Williams and Cameron Dickey deserve each week? Because I think you, as a coaching staff, kind of work forward from like one of those two sides. Either like, can we give this bell cow guy, how much can we give him, versus like how much do the other guys deserve? So I think, whichever approach they end up taking this year, if history is any indication, it's probably what you said, man. He's probably bell cow. How many touches can we give him, as opposed to the alternative? So yeah, we shall see. I mean, I think, do you think 1,000 yards this year for him?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think so too. I've come around. Like, it wasn't like anti-Joyner, but at the beginning of the offseason was kind of like, I think we should not be so hasty here. But I do think, with how it sounds right now, that's probably the direction we're heading. So, where do you have Joyner? I have him RB11 right now in my rankings.
Let's look. Joyner. I'm just going to have to type him in on that. I have him at 12, right behind Taylor Tatum and Jade Knott. I need to move Tatum down. I just like Tatum so much. He's too high, though. I keep forgetting to move him.
I've moved Tatum, and Tatum feels like one of those guys that's going to leave Oklahoma and go somewhere else and be pretty productive. So I'm real hesitant to nuke him in my rankings, because I think I kind of do foresee that happening. But yeah. All right, and then we'll talk about this last one. I for the record, did not want to talk about Kanye Udo, but Matt,
why not?
Here anyway. I don't think he's good.
Above average, star scorer. I think he's pretty good. Who do you think?
I have zero trust in any sort of service academy player translating to anything better than that level. I just don't.
I mean, look. Whoa, hold up.
I don't hate so. So don't accuse me of that. I do not hate the troops.
We love America. None of us are Chris Moxley. We love you, Chris.
Moxley's not here, so we can say this panel fully supports the troops tonight.
We love America. We love America. Come on. You cannot tell me you're taking a Sacramento State running back. What is that? D1, D3, whatever it is. Running back.
You're FCS. Come on.
Cameron, whatever. Do they really matter? They don't. Spoiler alert. Cam, don't get me wrong. Love me some Cam Scattaboo. But at least Army's playing FBS teams, and Kanye Udo tore them up. The one thing I am worried about with them is, I just don't know what this offense is going to look like next year. So I actually was going to say that I think he could end up being a one-hit wonder. Because last year they actually did run the ball a ton. I think obviously because of Scattaboo, 62% of the time early neutral game script situations. But if you go back through Dillingham's career, it's in the low 50s, high 40s. He loves to pass the ball. If you go even back to his time at Auburn with Bo Nix. I think with the kind of step forward we saw Levitt take, I would not be surprised if they passed the ball more. And the one thing that does hurt Udo, again, is we've not seen any receiving from him, right? So I do think that he actually takes a step back. As much as I think he's probably going to be the guy, and they lean on him because I think he is more of the power running threat that Scattaboo was than Brown is. And I can't remember who the other running back is that they have there, but I think Udo still has a good year, but I do think he might end up being a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I think he fits squarely in there. It doesn't sound like he was leading that competition in the spring. And yeah, I kind of agree with you that I think this is the year where you take the training wheels a little bit off Sam Levitt. Yeah. And I think as a football team, losing Scatterby, you kind of have to, right? You just kind of have to lean into that and say, if we're going to win 11 games again this year, or what, I think that's how many they won last year, 10, 11, something like that.
Yeah.
You're going to kind of have to lean on Levitt as opposed to lean on Scattaboo and his experience last year. I think that feels pretty obvious to me. So yeah, I think I don't think any running back there is going to be overly productive, but I don't think it's going to be Udo if I had to guess. Some guys staying put. So let's start with the Baylor duo here, Matt. This whole Baylor team offensively was a lot better than we thought last year. Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington. Sawyer Robertson was a guy that was around for forever. You want to talk about post-hype sleeper kind of guys. I think Robertson, that's kind of him, started off his career at Mississippi State a couple years ago. And I think was in our freshman guide that year. We thought he was an okay player, high college upside, probably not a lot of NFL upside. Last year completed 61% of his passes, over 3,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns through the air. And then Bryson Washington was definitely a revelation for them last year as well. Finished the year with what? That's receiving. Over 1,000 rushing yards, almost 6 yards per carry, and 12 rushing touchdowns. That duo, I think, got better as the year went on. And I think if you're a Baylor fan, that gives you a lot of hope kind of going into this year. Do you think both of those guys continue and both have big seasons here again?
Man, I really don't know. I think Washington has the better opportunity to keep doing it. I mean, realistically, the room behind him is not super impressive. While I love the true freshman Michael Turner, I mean, he's coming in with the torn ACL, so I doubt he even pushes Washington in any kind of way this year. And the one thing you can't say about Dave Aranda, if you go through, again, same thing. He's one of those kind of old school coaches, typically is going to run the ball in early neutral game script situations, 55%, 50%, 58%, 53%, 49%. He's a guy who's going to try and run the ball first. So I think that definitely helps Bryson Washington. One thing is, I forgot Kobe Prentice transferred into Baylor. But I don't really necessarily love this wide receiver core for Sawyer Robertson. But, I mean, do I think Robinson? I mean, he's not a bad athlete. I don't remember what wonder what their schedule looks like.
It's not awful, but they do have, to start off the year, Auburn, SMU. I think that could be two, rough games for them right off the rip. But then the rest of their schedule is pretty navigable.
Sure, yeah.
They do have Arizona State, they have Kansas State, and they have Utah. But then, like, I mean, how good do we think TCU is next year? How good is Oklahoma State? Like, they have a lot of those kind of UCF. They have a lot of those kind of coin flippy teams.
Man, that TCU and Oklahoma State games, like right now, that doesn't sound like when you say, I legitimately will say I might actually really want to watch those games. I mean, TCU, Josh Hoover, Sawyer Robinson possibly battling it out. And then I think Haas Haney is going to be a lot of fun at Oklahoma State.
He might not
maybe
be the starter,
those two battling it as well. Those could end up being some really good and fun games. I believe in you, Haas.
I don't know.
I got you. I think for sure I will lean more on Bryson Washington taking over or having a similar season. I just don't know what to think about Robinson. Because I think with the quarterback, you have to have at least a decent wide receiver core. I don't really love what he has around him.
Josh Cameron's okay.
Yeah, okay. Ashton Hawkins is pretty good as a deep threat. Sure, I'll say both. Why not? Go Baylor Bears. Sick them. Isn't that that's what they say? Sick them. Sick them Bears. I'm all in on both of them.
I wouldn't say I'm all in on both. I think Washington probably has the better chance to like improve on last year. You know, if we're saying, you know, will they be better than last year? I think Washington kind of has the better chance, but I do think that Sawyer Robertson is pretty good. I know that's like very just kind of reductive to say, but like watching him, like I tried to watch him in like March or April because I was kind of trying to figure out if I thought he was a legitimate NFL prospect, and I think I came to the conclusion that he probably isn't. Like I just thought there was kind of a lack of consistency on a down-to-down basis with him, and the arm is like solid, but also at times kind of looked like it was waning a little. Like it was very inconsistent across the board. I think there had to be a lot of growth and development there for him to be considered a legitimate NFL guy. But I do think he's a really good college quarterback, and I do think that this offense suits him really, really well. And so I think he'll have a comparable year. Statistically, maybe it's like Baylor fans don't hop on me because I think Baylor will be decent this year. I think there's a chance he's statistically slightly worse, even if he plays a little bit better. But I do think Washington has a real chance to go for like 1,400 yards. So I think there's a chance that Bryson Washington's the RB1 in college fantasy this year. Chance. So.
Interesting.
Who knows? And as O says here, the Baylor backfield has been unpredictable the past 2 years. And that's true. Like they've kind of yo-yoed some guys on us, but I do think Washington has more talent / isn't 160 pounds soaking wet, which has been some of the issue the past couple of years.
Who was that running back that a couple of years ago? I absolutely love that dude.
Squirrel?
No. He was like a linebacker converted to running back. Was it Abram Smith?
Oh yeah.
He was
drafted. Like
it went
3 or 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah. Love that dude.
Yeah. He had a good career there, or at least a good like year or two. I played 2 years there.
It was 2 years,
Yeah. Caden Lee, I think, is an interesting one. At Ole Miss, do you think he's like obviously he's the leading returner, but do you think he's their leading receiver this year?
No, I don't think there's any chance. I mean, who else did they bring in? I'm trying to remember everybody because they brought in multiple players, right? It was is it Stribling came in, right?
Harrison Wallace.
Who else did they bring in? Yeah.
John Stribling, Traylon, Caleb Odom,
right?
Traylon Ray, Aiden Williams left, and Deuce Alexander came in from Wake Forest as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. Not that I think Odom's any good, but I was just trying to remember there was multiple guys that they brought in. I also think just like honestly, the true freshman Caleb Cunningham is better than Caden Lee. Granted, obviously, Lee was there last year and was fairly productive. Lee, and maybe this is just like we don't have a ton of athleticism stuff on him, but he's just like not a good athlete, at least according to he has a very, very bad score. So I'm just gonna roll with no. I think he's gonna have a worse year. Not in, I'm out. by. Sorry, Colin, because I know he was kind of one of your guys.
We actually had Caden Lee as a top 30 receiver in his class in our freshman guide that year that he came out. Do you remember that? I mean, that's we were pretty high on him, but I think we all like if we have a guy rated wide receiver 29, we probably think he's more of a complimentary guy, and I think that's what he is. I don't think he's built to lead a room like this. I think that he's going to squarely behind Stribling for sure, and I think Cunningham is the wild card there. Be interested to see. Because he's so raw and played just not very good level of competition. And he himself is like not like obviously great athletic talent, but isn't as a receiver a great player today. And I don't know in the SEC if you can get away as a true freshman with just being athletic. I can't remember a wide receiver that's come in there in the past 4 or 5 years and done that. So unless there's a lot of quick development there, you know, could I see Lee being the second wide receiver there? I do think I could see that. Do I think he's even any finishes better than that? I don't think so. And I do think Harrison Wallace is a bit of a wild card there for them. Much like I thought Keandre Lambert-Smith was probably better than what Penn State fans thought last year when he left, I think Harrison Wallace is probably a little bit better of a player than Penn State fans want to give him credit for as well. What's the common denominator there? Drew Waller, maybe? I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I was gonna say Penn State, but
I think it's a quarterback issue in Penn State. Canton Hauser, Matt, you look. I removed him from the list 6 times, and you went back in. It's like when I delete the out of Ohio State on stuff, and you go back in and put it back in. So just Canton Hauser, another big year for him.
Yeah. Real quick, one of these years, maybe next year, I'm going to do a giveaway. If anyone can go in there and just point out to me how many times the gets put back in, because I do it subtly whenever Austin and Colin are not paying attention sometimes, just for the fun of it. Yeah, I mean, I actually think that he does. I mean, obviously he did not start out the year as the starting quarterback for East Carolina, ended up playing 9 games, was fairly good. Obviously there was a couple really big games in there, some poor games, but now that he is the starting quarterback for them, I mean, East Carolina, you go through, obviously they definitely seem to lean heavier on the rush over the past couple of years, but I think with what he can do as a runner and a passer, the rushing is probably not the high end part of his game, and we don't have very good, I need to get with Matt on this. We can add that dog rating in there to bump it up a little bit for Hauser, because this is not great. I'm not really happy with the star score here. But a guy, I think his arm velo is a little bit better than that too, but I am biased. So, but hey, Brad Kaya, Curtis Rourke's in here, Seth Hennigan. I love Seth, and Nathan Peterman, the 7-pick man himself, or 5-pick man, whatever it was. But yes, I do think Canton Hauser is one of those players who will have a better year than he did last year.
I'm a little hesitant on Hauser because he wasn't. I thought I remembered him being a better rusher than he was, and he really wasn't a great rusher. And I think his season really rests on those 2 5-touchdown games. I don't know. I'd be interested to dig into like I think there's some potential touchdown regression there that could come back to get him. So like on a per game basis, do I think he's going to do quite as well as he did last year? I'm a little hesitant to get there with him. I don't think he's going to have, I don't think the floor is going to fall out on him. But do I think, if I had to look at some of these other G5 quarterbacks who kind of picked it up as the year went on, like I'd rather have Colton Joseph. I'd rather have, what's his name at McCown, or I have McCown than him. Like some of those guys that kind of also came on as the season went on. Yeah. I think I just prefer them to him. I think there's more rushing upside with them. And I think, again, a little less, like I think there was some touchdown luck last year with him that I think is not great. So not totally out. We also butted heads on Hauser as a recruit a little bit. So
that's true. In the games that he started, because he's got 2 in here that he came into, so I'm not going to count those. 3, he had the 2-5 as you mentioned. 1, 2, 2. Man, that's not bad. I mean, that's multiple touchdowns in each game. I mean, he threw a fair amount of interceptions as well, but
yeah,
18-11 touchdown interception ratio. We'd like to see him cut that down a little bit there, my guy. But Still remember when his dad commented on the YouTube video, getting mad at me when I literally said like this kid. I think this kid's gonna be good, but whatever. My bad, bro.
He's a what if he'd stuck with Boise State kind of guy for me, because I just never thought that he was good enough for Power 4. Like I thought he was could be a really good G5 player.
Speaking of Boise State, Bryson Beaver, folks.
No, we're not talking. We're not talking. No Bryson Beaver talk tonight. No, Matthew. You already got to talk about him once this week. Second year leap. Let's just talk about one or two of these guys, Matt, since we are bumping up on an hour here. Mazeo Bennett at South Carolina. Do you think he could be their leading receiver this year?
Of course, we had to go to Bennett, the one I really don't know as much about.
You put him on the list. You put him on there. That is why I selected him.
Whoa. Let's dive into this a little bit. I put like 40 something names on this list. You just narrowed it down. I went through and I was like, I'm going to find every player.
You texted me 3 separate texts with like 15 names apiece on them.
I did, yes.
And then, so I picked out like 10 of them, put them on the sheet. And then you went in and added like 6 more. So, and we've covered.
I did. Did I go in and add Bennett? I don't think I did. Maybe I did.
You added Parker, Joyner, Udo.
I probably did add Bennett.
Hauser, Mekhi Lemon, who we're not talking about, and Mazeo Bennett. We've talked about all of them except for one.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. Mekhi Lemon, though, we should have talked about him because he's amazing last year. What did he have last year? Like 300? Yes, I think he will. He had like only 300 receiving yards last year, right? As a true freshman. Lenora Sellers, obviously, in my opinion, looked much better on the back end of the season, specifically as a passer. So I think if that continues to happen for him, that will only help him out. I don't remember them bringing anybody in the transfer portal. Is that correct?
Nobody
so if they
significant.
Did not,
if maybe they added a depth body, but nobody significant. Yeah.
And I mean, I know we were kind of high on 2 of the freshmen, but I don't know that those guys really challenged Bennett, and neither one of them. Like, I don't remember Murph or Clark. I don't think are going to end up being slot wide receivers, which is where I assume. What?
That's Clark. Team Clark over here. Team Clark.
Yeah, Malik Clark. I know you and Mox like Clark. I think Donovan Murph's a little bit underrated. I like Clark more, but I think Donovan Murph. I think I wrote up Donovan Murph's profile if I remember correctly. But Bennett, I think, obviously likely is going to be the slot wide receiver for them. He's got a very good star score for us. Was it 0.684? Actually I do. I think he's going to have a much better season. I don't know if he's going to get to like 1,000 yards or anything, but 700 yards. A lot of this, I think, just depends on if Sellers continues to take that step forward. Because who's going to challenge him? Nicholas Harbor? Please.
Yeah, I think he's by far the best receiver on that team. I am not a Donovan Murph guy, and I guess so a couple people in the chat had mentioned Murph. I just don't. He's an awful athlete. He was not as productive as you would want in high school. I'm not a Donovan Murph guy. Yeah, that's pretty much what he does. I mean, you shouldn't have. He's over 50th percentile essentially in size, and he has his like he played 3 sports in high school. Like if you have both of those boxes you can check off, and you can't get above a 0.2 athleticism score in our database, like you're not a good athlete just objectively. And that's kind of where we are with him.
Donovan Murph.
Yeah,
it's bad. I just looked at the star score. It's bad. Sorry, Martin. Really it's bad. But I'm standing with you. We're gonna stand tough or stand strong. Donovan Murph bros to the end.
Yeah, I think Malik Clark is a significantly better player than him, and I think he got some decent hype in spring. So I think he's going to be an interesting guy to watch. I think Murph should have not reclassified. I think another year in high school would have been really, really good for him. I think he left too soon, as do most of these guys that reclassify nowadays. To be honest, I think most of them should not do that. But here we are. And then Ryan Wingo. Let's finish with Ryan Wingo, Matt. Ryan Wingo last year. It was like the 3rd leading receiver on Texas, or probably 4th, I think, after Helm, Long, and Bond. Yeah. 472 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. They used him in the rushing game a little bit as well. Had 100 rush yards on the year. Just kind of their gadget guy, and now he's expected to be more than the gadget guy. Do you think he can be?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a lot about this. So my biggest thing is I wonder where he's going to play. Do we think DeAndre Moore is going to be the slot for sure?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more in the slot. I think Mosley is kind of the flanker, and then I think you have to put him as the X. Like, who else on that team? I don't think they have a guy that's capable of playing the X besides him on the roster.
Yeah,
Like, I think
I
you just
know.
have to put the biggest athletic guy out there and hope that that works for you. They also don't really use their X like a traditional X anyway, at least haven't the past couple of years.
It's just true. So I know this is going to sound just outrageous. So fans or people listening, I'm not comparing the two players. They're not the same player. But just stick with me for a second. Just let's live in Delulu land, as the kids say, for a minute. Could he use him? That is what the kids say. Trust me, I coach kids. The Delulu, Skibbity Riz, all that good stuff. Could they use him the way that he used Devonta Smith at Alabama? Because they used Devonta Smith a little bit the way they used Ryan Wingo last year with some of the quick, the screen passes, the end arounds. I think he's going to be better. I think DeAndre Moore probably leads the team. But I wonder if we're leaning so heavily into that because of the chemistry him and Arch clearly had. Sark, I think, is still, again, one of the more brilliant play callers in all of college football. When you go through his time, like, he has really produced some very impressive wide receivers. I mean, even go back. Granted, Alabama had a stacked room at the time. It was Smith. I think Waddle was still there. Ruggs. I'm missing one. There was like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy would have still been there. Even his time at USC, I believe he still had some very good wide receivers. Obviously, he's had some decent ones here at Texas over the past couple of years. I just think Wingo brings something completely different than DeAndre Moore and, God, for life of me, who's going to be the other one now? My mind is drawing a blank.
Emmett Mosley.
Oh, God, yeah. Definitely better than Emmett Mosley. I think Ryan Wingo leads the team in receiving yards. I've come full around. I was all on DeAndre Moore. I think me and Felix talked about this on the episode Felix joined me for here recently, and he was talking about DeAndre Moore. Let me back up. Let me save myself a little bit. I'm gonna rewind it just a little bit. I think Ryan Wingo leads the wide receiver room in all-purpose yards. I'll put it that, not counting special teams like rushing and receiving.
Those are called yards from scrimmage.
Yards from scrimmage. That's what we're going with. Yeah.
The Dynasty Psych in the chat says, Matt, quote Matt, Texas weapons in trouble without Ewers. I mean, if you take out the Ewers part, like, I do think unironically, like, the Texas, there have been some missteps, and I think they were really counting on Jonte Cook to kind of take that leadership role, from last year into this year, and that obviously didn't happen, and so I think that was their plan A, and I don't know that they had a really strong plan B. Like, DeAndre Moore I don't think is quite panned out to what they thought they would be. And I think Wingo, we had a lot of concerns about Wingo coming out. I think my big thing with Wingo is, like, is he LaVisca Chenault?
Maybe. But I don't know that's a bad thing.
I mean, it can work. Chenault had a very productive college career, and he was only limited in college because of injury / quarterback play to a certain extent, but because he was the only guy there, the quarterback play mattered a little bit less. My big thing on Wingo is I do not think that he is a good wide receiver. I just don't think he's a good wide receiver. I think there is a lot of LaVisca Chenault to him. I think you almost have to draw things up for him. I don't know that he's a guy that just, the offense throws it 28 times, and if he gets no design touches, he gets more than 4 or 5 targets in a given week. I just don't think that he can get there, because I don't think that he can get open outside of, like, running crossers and, just stuff like that just tends to get you open. So I think Moore leads this wide receiver room. I mean, I don't want to say, like, I feel amazing about that, but I feel pretty good that Moore outproduces Wingo this year.
Home field bet?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I think it's my first one of the season, I think.
No, you did one with Colin.
Oh.
I don't remember on what.
That's on him to remember. I don't know.
Colin's fairly positive that he's going to win it, and then you said you got a gift card and you're just going to spend it on you already because you already know you're going to win it. I don't remember exactly what that was.
I don't remember either. I really should write these things down.
I
yes,
really
I will
missed
have
that. I really missed that Jonte Cook went to Syracuse. I
It
did
was
not
about
realize that.
Martin
Oh,
was right.
thanks,
It was
Martin.
about JoJo.
Yeah.
I think I had like 650 yards and Colin had 800 and something like that. And we said whoever it was closer to.
Well, we all know I write this stuff down. So what are we going? Is it receiving yards or are we going yards from scrimmage? Because I want yards from scrimmage.
I don't want yards for scrimmage.
I know you don't, but leads the room, right?
I mean, the funny thing is, he only had he only had 100 rush yards last year.
That's
he only
right.
had
Okay, there you go. He only had 100 rushing yards, Austin. So what's the problem? What are we scared of here?
Okay, fine. So here's how I want to do it.
Okay.
Fantasy points.
Okay.
Full PPR.
We'll do fantasy points.
Because that will account for your rush stuff. Okay.
I'm all in.
Okay. Perfect.
We counting injuries here? Wait, we going fantasy points per game, like averaging injuries or anything, or just total fantasy points at the end?
Yeah, we can do per game, and we'll have to say that they each have to play at least half the season for the
works for me. Both of them have dealt with injuries, so I just want to clarify. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
works for me.
We'll say that. So yes. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, let's close the show with that. I think that's good. little action on a Wednesday night. Yeah, I think that's how we should wrap up the show for sure.
I'm excited that if I lose this bet, to get you a nice Ohio State Buckeyes hoodie.
I take it. I don't hate Ohio State. I root for them over Michigan. If that, when you kind of think of like
in that case, I'll get you that team up north.
Do not do that.
Team up north. I'll get that for you. It'll hurt me to order that too.
Colin and I give each other like 5 schools we don't want, and we do it. Like whoever loses.
That's fair.
Okay, just don't give me like these 5. And my 5 are always like Notre Dame, Penn State, West Virginia. And then it kind of varies who else I would say, but Colorado. Yeah.
Colorado's got some nice stuff though.
Cool color scheme.
Yeah.
Who's on your 5 before we leave?
No, just that team up north. That's
Marnie says, "Give me some Liberty gear."
Yeah, there we go. That's a great one. No, I love all of college football. The only reason I would never wear that team up north thing is because like my dad would just disown me, and I'm just semi kidding, I think. But outside of that, no, I'm a college football fan. I don't know why everybody thinks I'm a Buckeyes fan. I just love college football, so I support everybody.
What a guy! ELE, everybody love everybody.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. Ran out of time. I think his son plays at Michigan now, so maybe he would wear a Michigan shirt. Who knows?
He probably would on the broadcast while criticizing Ohio State. Nothing that matters, but
he just might do it. We'll get him rescheduled. We ran out of time. Make sure again you're leaving some reviews this week, guys, and like and subscribe to the channel and all that kind of stuff. We'll be back next week. Until then, guys, good night and good luck.